Okay, tonight we're opening an investigation. You see the headlines every single day, right? Ecological disasters, endless conflicts, entire societies just fracturing. Now, the easy explanation is that these are all separate problems, just a bunch of different fires we need to put out. But what if they're not? What if all that chaos, all that smoke, is coming from one single raging inferno?
And that's really the central question here. The source material we're digging into tonight treats this less like a debate and more like a crime scene. And when you start to look closely at the evidence, a really disturbing pattern starts to emerge, one that connects all these crises that seem so far apart.
And the evidence laid out in the text, well, it's pretty grim. We're talking about environmental destruction on a truly global scale. We're talking about the systematic wiping out of entire cultures. We're looking at a society totally driven by just endless consumption. The social fabric is so torn that the source actually calls it a form of social cancer. These are the facts of the case. You know, when investigators find a pattern this consistent across so many different areas, they stop looking for a dozen different culprits. They start looking for a single mastermind, a root cause that explains everything else. And the analysis in this text, it does exactly that. It zeroes in on one prime suspect. And there it is. The name of our suspect is capitalist modernity. Now, according to the text, this isn't just some vague term for the world we live in. No, it's a specific, identifiable system, almost like a machine with three crucial parts that, when they work together, are designed to produce the very crises we see all around us. The text breaks this whole system down into three key accomplices. First up, you've got the nation-state, which centralizes power and, let's be honest, fuels a lot of conflict. Then, you've got industrialism, which basically treats the entire planet like a resource to be burned through. And finally, the motive that drives the whole thing, the logic of maximum profit, no matter what the cost. But here's where the investigation takes a turn. It doesn't just end with a diagnosis of the problem. The text argues that, look, if this crisis is man-made, then a different path, a whole other way of organizing ourselves has to be possible, right? The case isn't closed. In fact, a brand new lead has just opened up. And this slide really lays out the core of that argument. It presents us, all of us, at a crossroads with a fundamental choice to make. On one side, there's the path we're already on, capitalist modernity. But on the other, there's a proposed alternative, a different future, the text calls democratic modernity. So let's look at the evidence, piece by piece, starting with that political pillar. The system we know is the nation-state, often rigid, centralized, and exclusionary. The alternative being proposed here is something called the democratic nation. And no, that's not just another state. It's a flexible, decentralized network of self-governing communities where different cultures can actually coexist in peace. Okay, next up, the economic engine. The text points its finger at industrialism. Technology just unleashed for maximum profit, which, as we've seen, leads directly to ecological ruin. The proposed alternative? An ecological industry. It's where technology serves society and nature, not the other way around. It's a total flip of our priorities. And finally, the social blueprint itself. According to this analysis, capitalist modernity is built on an economy of maximum profit, which naturally creates massive inequality and exploitation. The alternative is a communal economy, one focused on meeting actual community needs, one that reframes the very idea of work not as some burden you have to endure, but as a meaningful, liberating act. Now, it's really important we get what the text means by democratic nation. The source is crystal clear on this. This isn't a call to build new walls or create new states. It's the opposite. It's about empowering society to govern itself directly through democratic and local institutions that are autonomous. This image, I think, gets right to the heart of the ecological case. The source claims that our current system has literally shattered the essential bond between human society and the natural world, what it calls first nature. The whole goal of democratic modernity is to make that connection whole again, to basically put our roots back into the earth. So, what would this new world actually look like? Well, the text gives us a kind of blueprint. It talks about a society where communities have real economic autonomy, where work is seen as a form of freedom, and where the most sacred jobs aren't in an office tower, but out there restoring the soil and the forests. It's a vision that calls for a hard stop to the out-of-control, cancerous growth of cities that are just eating the planet alive. And if this whole investigation has led us to one single core piece of evidence, one undeniable truth, it is this quote right here. The source argues that everything we've been told is essential, capitalism, industrialism, is actually optional. But the things we've been treating as disposable, the soil, the forests, the planet itself, well, those are the only things we truly cannot live without.
So our investigation comes to a close right here, but not with a final verdict, more with a question just left hanging in the air. The evidence has been presented. The two paths forward are clear. According to this text, the choice between them is the defining case of our time. The question is no longer who the suspect is. The question is, what will the verdict be? And that is a verdict only we can deliver.